All right, step 5, trail to the sale. Now, as we've mentioned on PTPgroups.info, we are recording these and dropping each part of our sales process section by section. The point of this is so as you're going out running appointments, you can dissect and diagnose what part of the process that you're struggling with, and then pop open that website, PTPgroups.info, and just watch that section, whether it's rapport or whether it's your intro, the client worksheet, driving the why, what we covered last week. Either way, we'll get kicked off. Okay, step 5, draw it out. So this is after you've built rapport. Obviously, you've done your intro, which is setting the table. They're familiar with what's about to happen. Everyone is comfortable. You've gone through the client worksheet. So that way you've been able to identify what their situation is. That is where you know what you need to write, and you found the policy. You found the reason that they need coverage here. And if you're brand new, you've reached out to us, reached out to your manager, sent them a picture of this client worksheet to where we know what to tell you, what to write. Make sure you're writing the best thing that's going to get approved. These are just some of mine, from the past couple of days. Just what I like to do is on the back of the lead. So I have my client worksheet with all of the data, okay? And I turn the lead over and just picture this white screen as the back of the lead. And I do the same thing every single time. You're gonna have basically most appointments and most people's situations are gonna fit into 2 different buckets. It's either gonna be someone young and healthy enough to be able to qualify for, our regular type of coverage, the term coverage, mortgage protection, or maybe they have some health issues, maybe they're over the age limit, and you're going to be looking at an equity conservation plan. So what I'm going to do is I would like to show you, both situations on that, draw it out, and how to present options. I like to put everything, I'm constantly putting everything, on them. It's their fault that I'm talking to them. I am just trying to help them get what they want. So, I want them to be in control of designing what they want for themselves. I'll just give them a couple ideas, and then they can play with the numbers. I'll help you sign off on whatever you want. Hey, for the record, if it was up to me, you could have $2 million of coverage for $10 a month. I'm just going to be looking at all the different insurance companies out there, and we'll find the best rate, and it'll be in your department from there. Okay, so we've gone through the client worksheet. We've driven the why, which if you didn't catch that last week, that should be dropped here in the next 48 hours on PTPgroups.info. That is PTP for part-time profits, groups.info. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to say that they have a $150,000 mortgage. So I'm turning the lead over and I'm looking at the client worksheet, and I'm going to say, okay, so you guys, let's just draw everything out and see what makes sense here. You owe $150,000 on the mortgage, okay? The house appraises for $200,000, so you have $200,000 value, which means we've already got $50,000 of equity invested into this account, and I'm going to go through that regardless of whether they're getting a term or whether they're getting a final expense whole life product. I'm still going to go through this concept because what I'm doing is I'm making sense. They're starting to agree with me, and everything that I'm talking about now is logical, and it logically makes sense. And the why train, where the sale is actually made, whenever you're really deep diving into their situation, that's more of an emotional thing. This part is more logical. And I'm taking them down the trail with me. So you've got $50,000. That's basically your money, David, sitting in an account. Okay. Now, as we pay down on the mortgage over the next 30 years, the money in your account is going up. We know based on how long you live, how many payments you make, there will be somewhere between $50,000 of your money in this account and $200,000 of your money invested into this account. So first and foremost, we want to make sure there is no situation that could ever happen to where if something happens to you, then Sharon could not pay this. And I look at the client worksheet, say there's no situation that could happen where if something happens to you that Sharon could not pay this $1,200 mortgage payment. Because we wouldn't just be losing the house, we would be losing all of the money that you've been paying into this. That's going to be somewhere between $50,000 and $200,000 of your money invested here. So that money, either you want that money to either go to the bank or to go to your family in some form or fashion. Okay. So that is setting it up to where no matter what, you're at least going to be able to sell them a smaller policy that would at least pay the next couple of years of mortgage payments. Okay. So the first example is your typical mortgage protection. So we've gone through the equity concept, and then I'm just going to kind of draw everything out with them. We're going to say that they are 40 years old. Okay, so you're 40 years old now. You'll be 70 years old whenever this is paid for, when you've paid the house off. Right now, you owe $150,000 on the mortgage. Well, you're paying this down to zero over the next 30 years. So Christian, you can custom fit this and design this however you want. But just so you understand how it works, whatever you design today, if they approve you for that, it is locked in for that. It cannot change. So just for instance, if you were to set up the full mortgage protection, $150,000 until age 70, then that $150,000 is locked in. If something happens to you at age 67 years old, and you only owed, $30,000 on the house, whatever the math broke down to be, well then Sarah would still get a tax-free check for $150,000 or whatever amount that you had set up for her to have. She can pay off the rest of the mortgage, and with the rest of that money, replace your income that you're no longer alive making. And I look over at the client worksheet and I circle their income. People are very visual. And I'm not using insurance terminology. I'm walking them through, just very, very basic here. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. And they'll say yes. You want them to understand that it's locked in, that they can custom fit it, that it doesn't matter how much is owed on the house. Their family is going to get that tax-free check for whatever they had designed regardless. Okay. So we've gone through that, and then I'll start drawing out some options. So I'll say, look, I'll give you guys a couple different ideas for typically how most people will design this, and then I'll kind of let you play with the numbers from there. So I'll always look at a full mortgage protection, and then I'll look at a basic mortgage protection. Okay, so and whenever you're drawing out the options, I always draw the face amount, whatever they're getting, really big with commas, dollar signs, okay? Whenever you draw out what they're paying, I draw that a little smaller, no dollar signs. Might not make any difference, and it might not be, but it, hey, it works. So I think it helps. All right, so I'm going to show two different options pretty much every time, the full mortgage and the basic mortgage protection. And I'm going to explain to them not what it is. I'm not saying, well, Christian, this is a 30-year level locked in, term life insurance policy. They're not insurance agents. I'm telling them what it does. Don't tell them what it is, tell them what it does. And tell them what it does in their words. Because in this situation, you just got done driving the why. You've gotten into the situation that they're going to be in. So let's say Christian, I'm sitting with Christian and Sarah, and they told me, hey, if something happens to Christian, I can't pay the mortgage by myself. I would lose the house. And she's told me where she would have to go. She would have to, move to Arkansas or whatever the situation is. So whenever I'm showing them these options, I'm telling them, hey, this one, the full mortgage protection, if we get approved for this is going to lock in the full mortgage, no matter what. If you die while you owe money on this house, Christian, what you told me you wanted to happen, that Sarah would never have to worry about the house would be paid off, and will have money left over to take care of the kids. That is what this one does. This one makes sure she never has to drive to Arkansas and live with her sister. You know, whatever the situation was that they told you, you want to tell them in their words what it does specifically for them in their situation. So we'll say this one is 8401. The basic mortgage protection. Christian, you're healthy now. You know, if anything were to happen to you anytime soon, I feel like if anything were to happen to me anytime soon, it's not going to be, due to health. I don't have any health problems. So, you can't die of health problems if you don't have any. If I feel like if anything were to happen to me anytime soon, it would probably be something unexpected, car wreck, some kind of injury, something like that. If that's the case, it's going to double to $150,000. So if anything happens anytime soon, then this would be enough money to pay off the full mortgage for them. Now, hey, the closer you get to age 70, the more likely that is to change. Could have some health problems, could get diagnosed with something, could pass away of something health related. But we've also been paying down on that mortgage over that time. So no matter what, if something happens to you later in life due to health, it's still going to cut a tax-free check for $75,000, which if something happens to you later on, whenever you're older, you've paid your mortgage balance down, and that $75,000 should still cover, the majority or all of the mortgage left, and leave money left over. And if we get approved for that, that is only 4801. And I usually save my ammo for the end. I haven't talked about living benefits yet. Okay, so this is a good time to go ahead and throw in the living benefits. And oh, by the way, built in with whatever you design, it's not just a death policy. Traditionally, life insurance for the last 100 years is something you pay for every month, and if you die, it pays. Other than that, it doesn't really do anything. These policies are designed to keep you from going into foreclosure. So if you get diagnosed if you get diagnosed with cancer, if you have a heart attack, have a stroke, any type of critical illness or chronic illness, even though you're not dead, you have the option to go ahead and advance portion up to 95% of whatever you have set up to you while you're still alive, where you can continue making your mortgage payments and take care of everything while you're still alive. Now, with the basic, this is accidental. So that has nothing to do with, getting sick. This one, you would have 95% of 75,000, and then this one you would have up to 95% of the full mortgage if something, if you were to get diagnosed with something. Does that make sense? They say yes. And then you just simply ask them, which one of these do you want to see if we can get approved for? Which one would fit better in the budget? Which one would you feel better about Sarah having? Or we can go up or down or in between. So do you want to see if we can get approved for one of these, or do you want to play with the numbers? And then just shut up, and they'll tell you, okay? So that I'm always going to show a full mortgage, and then if I can, I'm going to show a basic mortgage, which basically you're taking the amount of the mortgage, cutting it in half, and you're adding the accidental death rider to the quotes, which is going to double it if they die in an accident to pay off the full mortgage now, and they will still have half of that coverage amount later in life if they die of something health related. So I hope that makes sense on the term. We're going to open it up for questions here in a moment, but I'm going to show you the other route. And Lydia, you had asked about this. These are the situations where you're going to run into a lot of this if you're dialing older leads, which you need to be if you're new, okay? We all started off dialing older leads to where we could get our processes down, and most of what you're going to run into is people that are not healthy enough to qualify for the easy standard coverage here. They have health problems. You're going to have to write a permanent product, which a lot of agents don't know how to do, which is why these people haven't been taken care of. So getting really good at the equity conservation and drawing out this situation of equity and leveraging that equity is going to really affect your bottom line. So rather than talk about it and go through it in theory, I just pulled up one of my live sales that I've done where I literally drawed it out just like this with the client. This situation is, she's older. She just got declined a fully underwritten policy, so she cannot get any type of term coverage. She had to get Forrester's plan right, which I had to do a phone interview with her. So it's literally just leveraging the equity. So I'm gonna play this for you so you can see real life rather than me just talking in theory. Does that sound good, Lydia? All right. But just to kind of draw everything out, 92, 125. Right now, we owe $92,000 on the mortgage. The property's worth $125,000 value, which means, like we said, we've already got $35,000 worth of equity here. Basically, your money that you've invested into this account, it's invested into this real estate. And as we pay down on this mortgage over the next 20, 30 years, the money in this account is going up. So we know for sure, depending on how long you live, how many payments you make when something happens, there will be somewhere between $35,000 and $125,000 of your money invested into that account, period. Yeah. Now, first and foremost, especially in this situation, we want to make sure there's no situation that could ever happen to where if something happens to you, that all of the money that you've been paying into this place would be at stake. Okay? So, the bank knows exactly how much equity is in my house, your house, everyone's house. If they even see, just right now, if they see $20,000 or $30,000, much less $90,000 of equity sitting there, the house is in your name only. They see that you're dead. They see 80 grand, 100 grand worth of equity sitting there. What do you think their next move is at the bank?
They'll foreclose.
They have paperwork ready. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as long as this mortgage payment continues to be made, there's nothing they can do. Okay? So that's the biggest thing. And in this situation, what most people will do is look at setting up an equity conservation plan. Because hopefully Jennifer's situation, will be different, will be better in the future. Okay? We don't know what anybody's situation is going to be, or if I'll even be healthy enough to work in 5 years. We don't know. That's the whole point.
Right.
So we just need to make sure, no matter what the equity conservation scenario would do is, no matter what, when something happens to you, Jennifer gets a tax-free check immediately in her name with enough money to continue making that mortgage payment for X amount of years. Okay? The very, very minimum, at least a year or two, to where she's not just kicked out of her house. She knows she gets a tax-free check. She could do whatever she wants to with it, Cynthia, but we would advise her, hey, put this into a savings account, and if need be, immediately turn it on auto pay. If you don't have to yet, you have it there, and you have the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of mortgage payments right there ready that she can turn on, and she would always have enough time and enough money to where if she wasn't going to be able to continue making that mortgage payment by herself, 4 or 5 years from now, or whatever the case is, that she would at least definitely have enough time to put the house on the market, sell it for what it's worth, and not have to fire sell it because she can't afford the mortgage payment. And all of this money that you've been paying in all of this time will still stay in your family. That's what we have to make sure of. I mean, they're going to get all the interest. There's nothing we can do about that. But, I'll be danged if I'm going to pay in all this money and let them have the interest and something happen to me and all my money that I've paid in there go anywhere else but my family in some form of fashion. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm wanting, really, really, really wanting to look at preferred rates. Based on what you've told me, I should be able to do that. Okay. Why is this saying? All right. I'm going to pause it right there. So in her situation, I didn't want to show numbers yet because I didn't know for sure it was on the line. I didn't know if whenever I did the phone interview with PlanRight, they would kick it out and tell me, well, she can't have preferred. She has to go standard or one of the other risk classes. So before I put my foot in my mouth and show somebody a number that they can't have, I wanted to go ahead in that situation and make sure from an underwriting standpoint, the numbers I was going to show her were good. So what I did was I pulled out the PlanRight, ran through the health questions, make sure we could answer no to everything. Her situation was pretty dire. She wanted to make sure she had coverage. So in her specific situation, I went ahead and called into PlanRight, did the entire phone interview before I ever even showed her a number because I knew she was getting something if I could get her approved for something. So let me see here. So obviously, I went through the phone interview. I showed her a couple numbers, and she picked the one that was $107 $7 per month. But I'm going to drop a couple. What I'm trying to do is I'm going through and editing each one of the sales. I think I probably have enough recorded now to where I have every different scenario. You know, there's only, like we say, there's only about 11 scenarios you're going to run into. You know, married with kids, no kids, young, old, widowed. You know, I'm going to try to get one from each spectrum to where on the first page of PTPgroups.info, you will see us going through each step of the sales process. And then on the next page, you can click live dials and live sales and see in real time these concepts and these processes to the T exactly the same way every time being illustrated in real time in real life scenarios and watch business being written. I think that would be really helpful. And I know y'all are tired of me, probably tired of me saying that, but I'm not, I'm learning how to edit videos and such as I go. So it's been a work in progress, but we're going to get better. Christian, I would like to turn it over to you. You know, our process is very similar. And I would like, just to see, kind of pick your brain on some things and see, is that to the T exactly, what you do whenever you draw it out? Is there anything different that you do whenever you show people, the different options and let them choose one? Guys, Christian Pounder single-handedly wrote over $50,000 submitted into the insurance companies last month in the middle of this whole pandemic. I don't know I've never heard of anyone that has written that much business without leaving their home, without travel expenses. Man, buddy, last month you not only led our team in production, not only top of Equus Financial in production, but buddy, I think you made a ripple across the entire industry for what you were able to do last month, given the circumstances, and not leaving your house. So no better person to ask about this. Christian is absolutely on fire. His team's growing like crazy. And you guys got a lot of awesome stuff going on. So I'm going to swap it over to you, Christian, and take it away, my friend.
All right. Yeah. Guys, good to see everybody. Our numbers are growing every week. That's a good sign that people care and want to get better. A few things that Nate hit on that you really need to focus on. When he's presenting options, he's not telling them what it is. That's very important. People don't care what it is. In fact, insurance is probably one of the most boring things to talk about. Okay. These people probably don't feel like dealing with insurance. Who does, right? They want to know what it does, not what it is. What it does is the valuable, important part. Make sure you cover what it does. So, for instance, last night, I'd listen, the way Nate teaches, you may be thinking, man, do I really got to do all this? That seems like a lot. He seems like he talks a whole lot. You don't have to do anything, okay? You don't have to follow this teaching, but I'm telling you, if you don't follow it, you're going to have a really hard time, and and eventually you will come back and be like, okay, I'm just going to follow it. So save yourself a lot of heartache and just listen, because this works, okay? It's working for many, many people. So last night, had a couple, Gary and Vanessa. Gary's 67, Vanessa's 54, okay? I knew that Vanessa didn't want to lose the house. I asked. I said, Vanessa, if money's not an issue, by the time I got done with her finances, I said, if money's not an issue, Vanessa, would you stay in this house or would you move? Well, I'd stay here. I don't want to move. Okay, perfect. Now, Gary, something happens to you. Vanessa can't make this mortgage payment. You know, what do you want it to look like? We did the why, go back and watch the why, right? I knew that. He was like, oh, I want her to stay here. I said, okay, here's the deal. I don't know what we can do for you. I'll do my best to see what I can do, okay? So I flip it over. Right now, you're 67, okay? Let me tell you this. If I was sitting, this is big right here. Gary, if I was sitting right there with you, which I usually would be, I'd talk to you like you were my own dad. I'd say, Pops, listen up. I'd say, I care about you. If you were ever going to do anything as far as insurance, 67 is going to be the absolute best time to do it. And I'll tell you why. We don't have a time machine. The only thing working against you is you're not 25. So as you get older, the insurance company is going to continue to hike this thing up on you. That's just how they work. If it was up to me, it'd stay $1, okay? But it's not. They're going to continue to raise it up. So as far as price-wise, 67 is going to be the best time. Also, right now, there's a few red flags. Obviously, you know that. The insurance company's not going to like you as much as I do, okay? They're going to treat your situation a lot different than I do, all right? They look at this stuff a lot more serious, okay? So as far as health-wise, if something happens down the road, first of all, if we can qualify, let's cross our fingers there. But if something else happens, this coverage will be off the table, and whatever's out there is going to probably not be worth your time or money, okay? So if you can get something, the time is now, okay? And I know people don't buy this stuff to pay another bill. God knows we got enough bills. I know we do. Good Lord. They laugh, but it's real. People buy it because they care about each other and the value that it has. And from what I'm seeing, Vanessa, Gary loves you. And the value to you, Gary, is to make sure that when something happens to you, Vanessa doesn't have to change or doesn't have to have a financial burden on top of grieving you. Is that correct? Is that right? Yes. So you're adding value the whole time, even through the process. So Nate, so what I do is I'm going to show you, if this was free, Gary, let me tell you something. If this was free, you'd be like, Christian, give me the whole mortgage and give it to me right now. And I want it as long as I could get it. And he's like, yeah, here's reality. Life is life and things aren't free that are worth anything, okay? So Gary, I know the coverage is valuable to you. I know it's important to you. I know you care about it. We already went over that, okay? Now all it comes down to is budget, okay? That's just reality, okay? So here's what we're going to figure out. I'm going to show you a way to take care of the whole mortgage with $150,000. Something happens to you, tax-free, boom, go into Vanessa. Make sure what you said doesn't want to happen, doesn't happen, okay? I'm going to show you $100,000. The mortgage was $150,000, okay? I show options a little different, but it's basically the same, okay? I say I'm gonna show it to you the same time, 15 years, but $100,000, and that'll still be, more than half of that mortgage is paid. Also, this coverage will never decrease in value, so even as you pay the debt down, the coverage stays the same. So if you die 5-6 years from now, you got a 15-year loan, your debt's about $100,000 anyways. So if you can live another 5 or 6 years, this is enough to cover the whole thing anyways, okay? I'm going to show you $50,000. And this is typically where I do the accidental death on the bottom. So I throw 3 options. I show the full thing. I show more than half of it paid. And then I show the half with the accidental. This guy wasn't young enough to get the accidental, so I just showed him 50. So I say, listen, however long they'll give you coverage for, that's how long I'd lock it in. Now, this guy could qualify for a good living benefit term product, okay? That's why I showed him to it at less than the 82. He was happy with it, okay? Then I show them options, and I do the same thing. I show them, I write it out big on the death benefit, and I write it out really small on the price. So I go through, I say, grab a pen and a piece of paper, and write this down. Don't be afraid to show big prices. Don't take your mindset of what you think it is, or what you think, hey, this is too expensive, and don't put that on them. Let them make their mind up, because you don't know how much they're willing to pay to take care of that pain. And don't prejudge that, because you'll miss out. And be confident when you do it, because, listen, what they're looking for is what they're looking for, okay? You've already gone over everything. It's up to them. Let them decide. Show them what they want, if it's valuable to them based on what you went over. So I said, the $150, write this down, will be $329 a month if they approve you. If they approve us, okay? The 100,000 will be 221 if they approve us. The 50,000 will be 113. Now, if we get approved, and based on what you want to see happen and not happen, from a budget standpoint, which one of these fits best for you guys if they approve you? And then you don't say nothing. You just sit there and let them decide. Well, I want to get the whole thing paid off is what he told me. This is exactly what he told me. I want to get the whole thing paid off. I said, okay, let me ask you this. That 329, are you going to feel okay 3 and 4 months paying for that? And you're not going to be cussing me out if you have to replace your tires and you're like, good God, man. And he was like, I don't know. I said, okay. I was like, what about 221? 221, do you feel okay about paying that? He's like, yeah, that fits better, but we need to think about it. I said, that's fine. I said, I want you to think about it. That's for sure. Here's the reality. Like I said earlier, if this was free, you wouldn't need to think about it at all, would you? He said, well, no. I said, well, it's all budget. I'm a real person. Okay. I know the coverage is important to you. Isn't it a value to you? And don't you need the coverage? Yes. See, you always take it back to keep the main thing, the main thing. Always take it back to the main thing. So I'm like, okay, this 150, obviously we want the whole debt covered. That'd be ideal. Okay. In an ideal world, you're 67. So the price is 329 without thinking hard at all. Is that too much a month? Yeah. Okay. Cross it out. Period. We're not going to fool with it. It is what it is. If you could get it, it'd be great, but it doesn't make sense for you. Let me ask you this. The 100,000, still more than half paid at 221. Does that fit better in your budget? Without even thinking, could you swing that? Yeah, that looks better. Okay. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just get started, okay, on the 100,000? You'll have 90 days if you want to come back and move it to 150, if that's what you choose to do without having to requalify. It'll just be based on your age. But even if you never come back and move it, at least you got $100,000. Vanessa, would you be upset at me when Gary dies, will I come with a check for $100,000? And it may not be the whole mortgage paid, but it's still a huge tax-free bucket of cash for you. Would you be upset at that? Well, heck no. I said, okay, well, listen, does the 100,000, I know that's a lot of coverage. The 221, does that fit in your budget? Even 3 or 4 months down the road? I start shaking my head. They're like, yeah. All right, well, let's do this. Let's try to get approved for this. If we get that locked in, we'll have some flexibility on maybe changing it later. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. Okay, you want to see if you can get approved for that one? Yes. All right, give me your driver's license. And then I filled it out as a $221 app. Boom. Nate, back to you.
Thank you, Christian. We're about to open it up for questions, but Lydia actually popped something in the chat here, so I wanted to recap on this real quick with you, Lydia. There we are. Okay, so Lydia asked to illustrate a equity conservation plan. So I wrote this out while Christian was talking. Just say this is a scenario. 74 years old. He had cancer 5 years ago. There's not a whole lot he can do, but he is married. Maybe he's got a pension. Maybe he's got a VA disability. Maybe he's got Social Security. Okay, maybe she has Social Security and his is just higher than hers. But when he dies, he loses the pension, loses the disability. She's going to go living from 4 different income sources a month to whenever he dies, she's going to be living on strictly his Social Security. That's it. And they have a $1,200 mortgage payment, a $1,280 mortgage payment, and she might make she might be living on $2,300 a month. So those are the situations you're going to run into because these banks, and you see the signs whenever you go in there, they're all about consolidating debt. Because what happens is these older people at retirement, they get used to a certain quality of life whenever they're both working and have their incomes. Then whenever they retire, a lot of people run up a lot of credit card debt. So the bank looks at them and says, hey, you've got a $200,000 house. They might have already paid it off, or they might have it paid down to $20,000. And they say, why don't you roll over this credit card debt that you're paying all of this interest on into a mortgage and have a lower interest rate? So it makes sense. They do that, but they're not thinking about the fact that cash flow wise, if he dies, she can't make the mortgage payment. So when you draw all of this out, the bank's looking at them like 74 years old, 30-year note. they've got $50,000 of equity already in their home. So now they're in a sticky situation. So that's basically the scenario here. So whatever their mortgage payment is, Lydia, let's just say it's $1,280. After I go through the concept of the equity conservation plan, like we just illustrated, 1280, you would take 1280 times 12. That would be 15,360. Okay, so that's the number I'm typing into my quote calculator. The actual face amount is going to be 15,360. Then I would say times 1.5. The next quote I'll run is 23,000. Then I'll run one for 30, whatever that is. Try not to do math in public, right? You just take the mortgage payment times 12, figure out what the face amount is going to be. But you're showing them and explaining to them what it does for them specifically in their situation, okay? Because that's what matters. So I'll go through this with them and say, all right, so we'll look at this. My job is to figure out what company you can get approved for and who has the best rate. I'll help you do whatever you want, Mr. John, but I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense, for you to go and try to get, even if we could find a company that would give it to you, go get $150,000 worth of insurance coverage, being 74 years old, cancer patient, survivor. Okay. It would just be so much, it wouldn't make any sense. So, to help fix our situation, without you having to pay an astronomical amount for insurance coverage, this is what most people would do in your situation. Okay. So that's the equity conservation plan. It's going to cut a tax-free check to Linda when something happens to you, where she has enough money to continue making that mortgage payment for X amount of years, whatever you design, to make sure that she can keep the mortgage paid. And that gives her time to figure out, what do I need to do? Can I make some changes to my expenses? And after a couple of years, eventually be able to afford this mortgage. Maybe she wants to do a reverse mortgage, or maybe she wants to sell the house, take that equity, buy another house. Either way, it makes it to where Linda leaves. If Linda leaves this home, she's leaving on her terms, not because the bank came and is taking everything in the house. Okay, so the first option would be, we at least need to have enough to pay at least one full year of mortgage payments. Whatever we design is going to double. If it is an accident, it would double. So this would be 1 full year mortgage payments, which would double to 2 full years if it was an accident. If we got approved for that, that would be 107.58. Or we could look at enough coverage for her to pay a full year and a half of mortgage payments, which, hey, that might not sound like a lot, but I've seen that other 6 months make all the difference in the world to a family. And if that was accidental, that would double to 3 full years. If we got approved for that, that would be 162.40. Or we could look at 2 full years of mortgage payments, which would double to 4 full years. If we got approved for that, that would be 225.08. Which one of these makes the most sense? Which one would you feel better about Linda having when something happens to you? And they'll pick one, and then I'll say, well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's make sure they can, that we can get through the health questionnaire. So I'll take it right back from them, and I'll go immediately into the health questions. And if they make it through that, let me see, grab your driver's license. Okay. Lydia asked, at 74, can they qualify for the accidental death rider? I don't know. Depends on what company. If you can, always add it if you can. If not, it doesn't really matter. That's just an extra. And I'm going to open it up for questions now. We've got a few minutes here before the national call starts. So you can click over there to unmute yourself and fire away if you have any questions for Christian or I or anybody else on the team here.
So Nate, I have a question. Dave Watkins here. When you said you made a phone call to Foresters, did you just do a risk assessment, or did you call based on the questionnaires on the app?
That was the Foresters plan, right?
Right.
So you have to do a phone interview for Forrester's Plan Right. So I did that. I did that on speakerphone. That happened to be a Zoom. Usually I'm sitting with them, but I just put it on speakerphone where they could answer the questions and pulled up the form number because they'll ask them to read the form number. So.
And you did that before you quoted any rates?
In that particular situation, I did, because she was so close to on the line that I wasn't for sure. It was a fingers crossed type deal if they were going to give her the preferred rate or not. And I didn't want to show her. It's a lot harder to show someone a preferred rate and then turn around and say, well, actually, it's going to be, $60 more a month. You want to make sure best you can that whatever you're showing them is something they can actually get. And if it does change, it needs to get better. It doesn't need to get worse.
Got it. Cool.
Hey, Nate.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize first sale got issued paid this week for Ken Bays. He wrote a Forrester's policy for someone up there in your neck of the woods, Christian, and got paid, I think, a couple of days later. So shout out to Ken.
Ken, awesome, man. I love that. I remember what it felt like whenever I wrote my first app. Man, I remember laying in bed thinking, all right, I just filled out these pieces of paper, sent them in, and supposedly, they're saying I'm going to get $400, $500, $600 deposited in my bank account the next few days. And I was just laying there like, man, if this thing's for real, if they're about to give me $400 or $500 for filling out those pieces of paper, we're about to make a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I've been getting a lot of help from David, and it's I'm kind of, this is a really part-time for me getting going here, but I'm really slowly trying to figure out. This was a really good training today. To me, it simplified things way down on how to do something. So
awesome, Ken. Awesome. Well, keep it up, man. Just keep rolling and plug into everything that you can, and keep bugging David Begley, because he is an absolute stud and a pro in this business. So, does anybody else have anything?
I appreciate all your help.
All right. Does anybody else have any open for any questions on presenting options or any part of the sales process? Anything we can help you with? All right.
Hey, listen, don't be afraid to call and ask questions. The people that ask the questions do the best. That's the only way that you get out of your thinking and start learning stuff. So never be, you don't know what you don't know. Watch these trainings over and 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 over until you memorize everything. I'm telling you, that's going to help you, because you're going to know exactly what to do. You're going to know exactly what to say, and you'll start catching yourself when situations come up. You'll be like, man, how did I say that? But it's because of what you've been pouring into yourself. You're only going to, give out what you put in, good in, good out, garbage in, garbage out. Start feeding your mind good things. Start putting yourself in a positive state. Start listening to positive things. Start reading positive things, and get your mind in a state to where you give it creative ability, and you give it, you unkink that hose to where it starts functioning properly, and it starts giving back good things to you. So in situations where you need it, it comes through for you instead of just going blank and you not knowing what to do. It's incredible how the mind works. We don't even understand how powerful it is, but you can help it by putting the right things in. Okay.
Thank you, Christian. Guys, it is May 8th, and the temperature, the climate of everything going on, we couldn't be in a better situation. We're all very, truly blessed. There's a lot of people out here that need our help. I just want to encourage you to just full force attack. We like to use the concept ready, fire, aim. So don't get so, you can watch this video 100,000 times, but it ain't going to deposit no money into your bank account. Okay. The best teacher is going out, and none of this is really even going to make that much sense. We can sit around and talk about it all day long. I used to not even want to give this training to somebody that hasn't gone and ran 10 to 15 appointments out of the gate. Okay. So go out and just take full force action. All of this stuff's going to start sinking in. We don't get paid based on the amount of work that we do this week. Christian didn't make over $40,000 into his checking account last month because of the work. Well, he did a lot of work last month, but it really, I think you would agree with this, Christian. It wasn't really necessarily based on the amount of work that he did. Christian worked harder stacking plants at the nursery out in 90-degree weather in Alabama. When I first met him, you worked harder there than you did last month sitting in your room. It's not based on the amount of work that we're doing. It's based on the experience. It's based on all the appointments that we've ran, all the different situations that we've been in, all the weird, circumstances and awkward moments that we've gone through, all of the applications that we didn't write, the mistakes that we made. Like, we get paid based on our experience here. So a lot of people are like, they want to know everything, how to do everything. I'm saying, hey, go book 100 appointments. Somewhere between 0 and 100, you start getting your processes down and figuring things out. The problem is, I see people stretch that learning curve out. We've got people that have been with us for 6 months that hadn't booked, hadn't ran 100 appointments. And I see other people that come in and they'll run 100 appointments their first month, and they'll make a mess, right? We'll clean it up, but they get their processes down a lot faster. And they have their skill set has jumped up enough to where they can close 60 to 70 to 80% of everybody that they sit with on a faster basis. So it's more about experience. It's more about getting into those situations that make you uncomfortable, pushing through and letting the numbers work in your favor. Track everything. Let's just full force May. Let's make May the best month you've ever had. Whatever. Put your goals in front of you. Write them down. Keep them up. Put them where you can see them. Track it every day, guys. I'm excited. I'm honored to be in business with all of you. Never want to get off this call without letting you guys know how much I appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing. Love the fight. Let's go out and make this month the best month we've ever had. And guys, we're going to jump on the national call. Starts in 7 minutes. We will talk to you next Friday. We're actually going to be moving this call for some of our people in Central Time and getting over to the West Coast. It's pretty early for them right now, so we're going to move this call to directly after the national call. So it'll be 12 o'clock Eastern and then across the country. So have a great day. We will see you next Friday. Let's get it. Bye.